as is required of any live crochet event, my hook has gone walkabout, but it's a 6mm, so we're just gonna pull another one. Hello, darlings. I hope you are all having a great evening. We are awaiting the storm. Yeah. So, oh no, I guess I don't have anybody here. Said I had people here. YouTube, you liar. Well, like I don't talk to myself all the time anyway. There we go. So while I wait for people to join, I shall talk about the weather like a very boring person. It is going to snow tomorrow. A lot. Or so they tell me. I might not have sound. I can't tell. I have to wait for somebody to show up to tell me if I have sound or not. Oh, sorry. Said I'm going to have to wait for somebody to show up to find out if I have sound or not.
Okay.
Because there's like a little green thing, and I think it moves if there's sound, but it's not moving. I don't know. Sorry, I forgot you were listening to something. Yeah. And there it is. I am making a shopping bag from the 1970s. I put a link to the pattern booklet. Hello, darling. Oh, it's so good to see you, Trish. Are you guys preparing for this weather fuckery that's about to hit everybody? I've been checking in on my friends who aren't used to winter. Oh yeah. The current estimate I have seen is 14 inches, but I've also heard possibly up to 2 feet. So I guess we'll find out. Sean was incredibly brave and went to the store. Oh, sleet. Ugh. I mean, yeah, sleet's kind of better than freezing rain somehow, even though it's still like frozen rain. Oh well, I'm glad. I'm glad it's going to be a little easier for you. I went out to the balcony today to take some Christmas lights off the balcony and didn't wear gloves, thinking I would be fine, and that was dumb. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, freezing rain gets everywhere. Yeah, we're just in it for snow, as far as I understand. Starting tomorrow night. And but it's very funny. The people who I work with who have lived in Pittsburgh longer than me are out here being like, "Yeah, it's fine. It's not going to be a big deal. Like, it's a lot of snow, but this city will be open again by Tuesday." So, oh yeah, yeah. Where I grew up in the Ozarks, the power went out really easily if there was more than a couple of inches of any snow or sleet. And you couldn't get anywhere because even if the plows did go by your house, if you lived in town like I did, nothing was open because most of the town lived out of town on the back roads that could not be plowed. So it was, it's going to be very different to be in a metro area that is used to these sorts of things. Like, I'm not worried about the power at all, which is weird. So I'm like, 14 inches of snow. The biggest concern is how much Bean will allow. Oh yeah, New England. More power failures in 2.5 years. Ooh. Are you in a small town right now? Um, Tennessee power outages are no joke. And I mean, so much of Tennessee is still like good luck in terms of kind of everything. And if the weather gets bad, it's like, yes, we do live in the mountains. We did not clear any other part of the mountain than the part that we needed. Welcome to Tennessee. Good luck. We have a musical city. It is also surrounded by mountains. Yeah, I was wondering if that was what was going on with where you are. Just that's the kind of small town I grew up in. Like it's going along. It's still there. Still there in the Ozarks, still chugging along. Shockingly consistent population where I grew up. Lived in East Tennessee and Nashville. That had to have been night and day. Nashville's got plenty of money to keep their infrastructure going. Yeah, like I've got a friend in Louisiana who's giving me updates on like what the weather's doing down there, and I'm watching stuff from people who are in Texas who, if you're in Texas and you're watching me, you have nothing but my sympathies for having to deal with any of this sort of weather that you're not supposed to be having at all. I think Wisconsin is going to get like -40 or something. Might have been -20. It's a large negative number. I have family in Kansas, and I have been to and driven past Wichita a lot, and it is as flat as the rest of that part of the state, and there's no trees to stop that wind. Yeah, like I have a standing rule that if it's above 80 or below 40, it's cold no matter where you are. Like it's cold or it's hot no matter where you are. So like if you're used to it, cool. If you're not used to it, yes, you can bitch to me about it. I had family in Hugoton, Kansas, which is in the very southwest corner of the state, right next to Oklahoma. I think I have family in Wichita now. I don't know. And then I where's my wherever the state capital is in Kansas. I think it's Topeka. My brain can never remember if it's Topeka or Wichita. I have a friend who is in the capital, whichever one that is. 0 on Monday. Yeah, I think today's low was -1. And when I was out earlier, it was 20, but apparently felt like 8. So that was fun. Hello, other person. I think my viewership is trustworthy now. I am working on a shopping bag from the 1970s. I have a link to the little pattern booklet that I found on Etsy down in the basement in the description box. So if you want to take a look at it, I will say, like, this is really cute and I love it. I used bulky, it's supposed to be super bulky yarn. I got it's one of those things where it's 1970s and it says, oh, it says bulky rug yarn, but by modern standards, it's a super bulky yarn. So, bag. Arctic. Oh man. So you're dealing with this, and then a week from now, you're going to be dealing with it again? Ugh. It sucks. Yeah, this has been a fun bag to work on. I made it to pattern previously, and then what I'm doing now is I made it a little bigger because I'm using the slightly because I'm using a bulky instead of a super bulky. So I think this is going to come out more the actual size it's supposed to be, which is which I wanted. I wanted the big shopping bag. So I am using, this is Hobby Fluffy Day. This is left over from the rug I made. I made a 1960s rug. And I bought enough to also make, like, there was a toilet seat cover because it was a bathroom set. And I was going to turn the toilet seat cover into a tiny rug for Bean, but I got tired of making chevrons. So I had yarn left over. So I'm just, basically, I'm going to make these 2 bags, and then whatever's left is probably going to become coasters or something. I want the yarn out of my house. But I also needed a project that's faster than anything else I'm working on, because I have a fingering weight project, I have a size 5 thread project, and then the sweater project I was working in on my test stream. Hold on, I gotta lean over. It's slightly out of reach because it's in trouble. So this is the sweater I was working on the last time. Oh, you know what? I bet Fuzzy Day is probably a dupe for Jiffy. Yeah, now that you've said that, I think that's totally possible. I'm gonna pull my hook out. So this is the sweater I was working on. It would be finished, except I bought enough for the first size, and I needed enough for the second size. So it's like 100 to 120 yards I needed, which bugs me because the skeins are like, I think, 215 yards, and I don't like having half skeins. But then I was like, well, you know what? I know that there was a local yarn shop that carries this is Juniper Moon Cotton Merino Shadows. And I was like, oh, I bet I can just pop into the local shop, which is called McWalker's Yarn. They don't have this colorway in right now. So I went to the Charlotte Yarn website, because I bought this in Charlotte, North Carolina, and bought enough skeins to finish like the last 20 rows of the final sleeve. This is the final sleeve. So I need like enough to do 20 rows, and then I'm going to make a pencil skirt to go with it. Yeah, this is the Peridot, however you say it. I don't know. Yeah. And so, and I'm using a better camera this time, so you can really see, I think, the color way better. And this is working in back loop only single crochet, and it works up like that. So I'm really curious to see how it works up as a pencil skirt when the yarn gets here, which will be sometime next week. I don't know. But until then, I needed something to work on that could be finished quickly, so I'm making bags. Yeah. But yeah, it's over there because I ran out of yarn, so I'm mad at it. Yes, I do need to go out to dinner once that outfit's complete. I think it's going to be very 1960s-ish. I'm very excited. I also got the buttons for it in. I can. I can't get them to. Well, they're glittery. Hold on. Let me see if just holding up one will be easier. And I found them on Etsy. I found somebody who just makes buttons. So. Oh, there we go. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And I got them because of the little blue pieces in the glitter, which are over here. And then I just like the other colors being in there as well, especially because the yarn has kind of a neon light thing. So very fun. Let me pull. I actually have my Etsy open, so I can tell you where I got them from. don't need that open right now. So there's a bunch of different options for the glitter and in sizes. So that's a link. That should be a link to the listing, and I will drop that in the description as well. There we go. And then I got, let me double check my listing here to see what exactly I got. Oh, that's interesting. It does not actually say which of the glitters I got. That's no problem. I just need to look at it again. Come on. Go away. It was it the hologram? Oh yeah, okay. It was the Black Princess Flakes, I believe. Yep, that's what it was. Those are the flakes I got in the button. No, that 380, I think it was. Yeah, it's like a set of 6 is 380. Or like 380 to 1280, depending on like size and that sort of thing. So, yeah, so, yep. Yeah, like great job by the seller setting that up. I've had to set up drop down menus before, and I hate doing them in Etsy. So like taking the time to not set up one but two, so that you can get the details you want is just so good. Yeah, like she's also got like if you just go to her main store, there's like shaped buttons and themed buttons and that kind of thing. So I've got her marked on to. I got the 1-inch because that's the size needed for the sweater. Yeah. Hello, new people. We are talking about buttons. Goodbye, one person. It was nice to see you. But we are talking about buttons that I bought for a sweater that I can't finish because the yarn is in transit because I ran out. A little embarrassing. Yeah. And if you would like to see where I got these, I put the link in the description box. So have at it. It's so difficult to be on Etsy right now because of the drop shipping, the AI horse shit, and especially if you're into crochet, the AI horse shit. And so anytime I can still find somebody on there who is really, doing what you're supposed to do with Etsy, which is make it yourself or find it yourself, or in terms of vintage patterns, you're digitizing them so I can get a hold of them. So big fan. It's always nice to still find someone on there doing that. And like like looking at all of her buttons and being like, oh wow, yeah, that's a great combination. Hi, do you need attention? Um,
No.
she's usually on my lap in the evenings when she's not in her bed. And so she wants on my lap, but well, honey, it's live stream night. Although you could probably do amazing for my numbers. And this poor dog, after we've had her, it'll be 7 years this year, has to go through the immense embarrassment of wearing booties. And when I say immense embarrassment, I mean the funniest thing I have seen all week. Yeah. I also was eating pizza, so yeah. So when we got her in Portland, we wanted to get her booties because she doesn't have an undercoat. She's got these big ears which release heat, and we didn't want her feet to get cold. She was not having it. And so we were like, we've got to get her booties here because like her feet are going numb. And so we got her a set this week, and I put them on expecting her to be like, what are you doing? I refuse. And she got it. I mean, she's a very smart dog, so that's not surprising. But like, she figured out right away. Well, if I wear them, my feet don't get cold.
I'm gonna hang out with John in the office.
Oh, could you refill me before you go upstairs? I am live streaming. Sean is not, and we are. He's gonna go upstairs to hang out with somebody online. So I'm putting him to work as my sommelier very briefly.
You don't want to do this on stream?
Oh yeah, I should do this on.
No, why not?
Oh, you're gonna pour it for
Let
me?
me pour for you.
Oh,
fancy schmancy.
I mean, pretty good life. Cheap champagne and a dog in my arms, and a handsome husband, and a nice sweater. Where'd you get that sweater?
Oh,
it's the sweater I made him.
Yeah, it's the sweater I made.
You, my ass. Sweater I made. I don't know which bubbly this is. There are 2 bottles in the fridge because we figured we should have a backup for the weekend.
Whiskey.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of just if I'm in the mood to have something, it tends to be champagne because why not? In beautiful thrifted Czechoslovakian is this a Scotch glass? It's not a highball. We have the highballs. We have highballs, but yeah, man, you are insane. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so she has booties. Oh yeah, I think it is an old-fashioned glass. I think you're right. But we got her booties, and they're the kinds that like they pull, and they've got the little squidgy thing to hold them on. And because she has dainty little Chihuahua ankles, they the amount we have to pull to make them tight enough they don't come off. It causes the end of it to hang off. So I've ordered new ones, which will be here overnight. And hopefully those will they're meant to fit tiny little dog feet, as opposed to the other ones I got, which are just like regular dog feet, and or at least regular dog ankles. Yes, hello. And then hopefully she will be good to go with those as well because she managed to kick one of her bright pink booties off as she came on the porch, and I cannot find it. And our yard is brown. Like, I don't know. I guess it went to another dimension. I don't know what happened. But yeah, it went missing. Oh, golden retriever who doesn't like his feet touched. Little guy. Yeah, she has super long quicks, so she has little goblin claws. Because there's not enough nail to clip anytime. Like we've tried several times, there's never enough nail to clip, and it just becomes, it's just not worth it. But it just means that I end up with a lot of very tiny bruises from someone's horrible shredding claws. I'm talking about you. You don't care. I think some of this kisses is she knows. I think she can tell the weather's about to change. She knows something's up, so she's a little worked up, but she's doing all right. She didn't even bark when the pizza came, which is surprising. She's usually going nuts. Okay, here, if I pet you, will you stop? I'm supposed to be crocheting. That's kind of the point of the stream. I'm supposed to sit here and stitch and bitch. You hear the first part of that, right? The stitch. Nail clip trauma. Oh God, that's my greatest fear. Like, because I know people who trim their dog nails. I'm like, good for you, not me. No, somebody who knows exactly how to do that is going to get my money. Well, except you don't need it, which I appreciate, but do you have like a big chunky golden, or do you have like a noodle golden? I might have asked this the last time we talked. I don't remember. Also, to the rest of you here, if you have any pets, I want to hear all about them. It's very important because pets. Yeah, she is. She doesn't know what she's doing. Okay. Nope. Oh, for God's sakes. Okay, here. That's fine. You're fine. So what I'm doing now, I just finished. So on the pattern, you're supposed to do 2 rows in the contrast color because it's supposed to be a 2-color bag. I've been doing multiple colors. So I just did 1 row because I wanted to have a good solid row to put the beginning of the strap on. So you work the first strap directly off the join, and then you work the other one across, and then you fold them over. So 90 pounds and the 3 cats, right? Fluffy is acrylic. It's 100% acrylic, and I have washed it, and it washes very nicely. It washes very easily. I was concerned that the fluffiness itself might be a problem, but no, it washes nicely, which was good because it was for the rug, and I didn't want it to look bad. Yeah, sounds like Jiffy. Yeah. God, I forgot about Jiffy. I was just thinking about Lion Brand Incredible the other day. It was a tape yarn from back in the I remember it being a big thing in 2003, 2004. And this was back when I was really just starting to crochet again after not crocheting for years. And I was so intimidated by it. And now I'm like, oh, it's ribbon yarn. Because just you spend enough time around yarn, you realize the stuff that maybe was scary was not that scary. But I had a good laugh over that because I just finished a dress in Lion Brand Rewind, and that's a tape yarn, and it made me remember Incredible. I'm like, oh, I want them to do a nostalgia bait and bring Incredible back. Like, if we can bring back Martha Stewart's Prison Leaving Poncho, I think we can bring back Lion Brand Incredible yarn. I think this is a fair thing to want. But I remember working with Jiffy and being nervous when I worked with it originally because it was like, oh, it's fluffy and it might get knotted, and what do you do? And prison was around here. Oh, Martha Stewart was in West Virginia for her prisons. Oh, that's so funny. So to the other people watching this who might not even know that Martha Stewart went to prison, we are talking about Snoop Dogg's best friend and the domestic goddess of the last 40 years. She got busted for insider trading and served, I think it was 19 months. It might have been more than that, but it was over a year because she was in a prison. You don't tend to go to prison to serve less than a year sentence. And when she came out, she was wearing a poncho that a supporter had made her, and it was made out of Lion Brand homespun because that person is very brave. And it was this huge thing. She'd used a free poncho pattern from Lion Brand to make this poncho. It was in this kind of green-gray homespun. It was very pretty. And everybody was making it. I tried to make it. It didn't work. I didn't know then that homespun and I will never be friends. But homespun and I will never be friends. Which is funny because I've worked with other bushils and never had a problem. But yeah, and acrylic bushils at that. I've worked with stuff that is basically homespun, but I cannot work with homespun. But then I think it was February of last year, so almost a year ago. It was an inmate that made it for her. Okay, I thought it was an outside supporter. She actually wore it on a podcast in the last couple of years. It's a video filmed podcast, and you can find it. And she puts it on. I would believe that Martha wouldn't admit that an inmate made her something. Look, I think Martha's cool, but she's also Martha Stewart. She's not going to admit if she didn't make it herself. Yeah, she kept it, which is actually really nice. And but a couple, February last year, I think it was, Hirschner's magazine, I was flipping through and I did my 2-hour video about what was in Hirschner's at the top of the year. I'm hoping the catalog makes it to me this year because I love making that video. And they had, oh look, Lion Brand now has this boho poncho pattern. I'm like, bitch, that is the Martha Stewart leaving prison poncho, and we all know it. We all know it. Do you know how much money I would pay to watch Martha Stewart wear anything acrylic in the Hamptons, Trish? That would be the fun. Like, it doesn't even have to be like a big deal that it's acrylic, but like imagining Martha Stewart wearing acrylic at all, but in the Hamptons. I think I actually looked up like what it costs to just stay the night in the Hamptons, because we're in Pittsburgh now. No, I'd rather just be. My white trash ass is perfectly happy to not do that. Well, I might change my mind. I do want to stay at the Coronado at some point, which is in San Diego, and it is where they filmed. Some Like It. I think it's Some Like It Hot was filmed at the Coronado. This is so funny. You're saying that Martha Stewart would never wear anything granny square except for that poncho, and I'm like thinking back. No, it's not her style at all. Like, not even like an elevated granny square. Like, I will go to war for the granny square. It can be the most, like, even in its original basic form, can be the most beautiful thing you ever made. Depending on how you lay it out and what colors and that sort of thing. But also, there are so many ways to do it that you can go from, the basic granny square to the fanciest shit you've ever seen. Like, it is such a versatile little guy. I love it so much. I learned to make granny squares from a crochet children's book. Yeah, a little something to know about me. Oh God, so can you imagine a silk bedspread in granny square? That would be so pretty. Because you'd have like the sheen. She might wear a cashmere granny square, but I feel like it would be like a regular cardigan, but the pocket would be granny squares. Like, I think she would use a granny square as a tiny bit of statement, but it's going to be the same color as the sweater. She's not going to do a contrasting granny square. That is not Martha Stewart's vibe. I, meanwhile, would make a neon pink cashmere sweater with neon green granny square pockets. That's what I would do. Yeah. It's so funny you say you see Martha in a soft white, because I'm sitting here picturing her, and all I'm seeing is like a long white cardigan in my head. I still want to. I need to. How did she and Snoop even meet? I gotta look that up sometime. I'm curious how they met. Maybe just because he was on the show. Oh, the Pantone. Oh, cloud white. I made a YouTube short making fun of the colors of the year because I saw a whole slew of. I saw like 6 of them in a row, and I'm not kidding you. It was that Pantone ridiculousness. Gray green, khaki, that I believe was actually called universal khaki, a different gray green, 2 browns. And I'm like, what is happening? This looks like you took it looks like a deconstructed photo of lawn clippings or something. And not even good lawn clippings, because the greens are boring. I just like, no, I am disappointed I had to buy the dog khaki colored booties because they would get here overnight. Like, I don't even want my dog in neutrals. Hello, people. We are talking about Martha Stewart's style, and I'm working on a 1970s shopping bag. And feel free to chime in with what you're up to, or if you're one of the many, many, many people in the United States about to get slammed in the face with this weather, as I am, as Trish is, you can commiserate with us. We are all in this together. And it's fucking cold outside. A little of neutrals goes a long way. Oh, so agree. They have some color in there, hence it being color. Yeah, like that's why I think like white is a neutral. It's not meant to be a color. Like I learned that in second grade in art class. And to be like, oh, the color of the year for 2026 is going to be white. And I'm like, I think the walls of my last apartment were this color, guys. That's not a color anybody wants. Landlord white. Maintenance request white. Like, I love this. I don't know how much it's showing up on camera, but the walls on the living room are blue here. And then my upstairs, my office, it's like yellow. But depending on how the light hits, sometimes it's exactly the same color as my skin tone. Yeah, just. And like, if you like neutrals and you prefer them, and I know for some people it's a matter of like it really makes their space soothing to be, you know, to have neutrals as opposed to a lot of color. Totally get it. But like you are literally the paint color company, Pantone. You are the print colors for CMYK printing, Pantone. Like your literal job is to come up with colors. I'm sure Pantone is watching this just shaking in their boots. Absolutely terrified. Yeah. I think depth is really what you're talking about with neutrals. Like it needs to. How do I phrase? So the thing about monochrome is that most people think that means beige, gray, white, or black. And monochrome just means one color. But it gets misinterpreted a lot as like only the neutrals. And that's a shame because if you go and you look up like monochrome pink living room, there's some great stuff and you can do it with any color. And so it's like, you know, my house has every color everywhere all the time. I am not a subtle person. But like there's a lot you can do with one color in a bunch of different hues and shades. You can have a lot of fun, and it still has sort of that soothing feeling to it when I look at it personally, at least, where I'm like, ooh. You look around and nothing's much brighter or much darker than anything else. This is all cozy. Tonal, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Yeah. So, like, actually, case in point. This very light pink and this very bright pink. These are the two extremes of pink. And there's a lot in the middle that you can use that is also pink if what you want is one color. But also I saw YouTube loves to suggest things to me and I never know how they do it, but they're like, oh, don't you want to see this person's, you know, Christmas video? I'm like, I don't know who this is. But it was Watch Me Decorate for Christmas and it had a preview of the tree, and the tree was like a white sparkle tree covered in like muted gold ornaments, and I was like, that is not my feeling at all. That looks unfinished. I need my crayons. I'm like, I don't know why you suggested this to me, YouTube. I don't watch a lot of stuff with people decorating their own houses. Wait, do I watch any stuff with people decorating? I don't know. Maybe. Lumber and Party. Ooh, so it's the umber is lilac, pink, peach, royal, and lavender. Ooh. Yeah, I mean it's Red Heart Super Saver, so it's like working with sandpaper, but once you get that thing in the wash the first time, it's gonna be great. Um, I actually have Sean went to the store to stock up before the storm. Bless his heart. And uh he I was like, hey, you're already gonna be at Walmart, so I'm gonna need you to pick up some yarn for me. And I don't even need that much. But I didn't have any black worsted weight or the blue that I needed. And the only ones he could find in the colors I needed were in the jumbo size Super Savers. So I think there's a blanket in my future. I think as soon as I use the like maybe 30 yards that I'm going to be using to pattern test for a friend, that's I'm going to just have so much left over. Others, I honestly I love Jumbo Super Saver because it's like I need as much yarn as I can possibly get. Oh, here's some. It's like going in. I love buying like one of the funniest things. I haven't been able to do this in a while because I haven't made a blanket in a very long time. Uh, but I remember walking into Joanne back in the day, RIP, and the pattern I had, I wanted to make it larger than it was. And so I walked up to the counter with 3 pounds of love and just dropped them. And the cashier was like, blanket? I'm like, blanket. Like, yes, I need these 3 pounds of yarn. Thank you. But yeah, I'm doing a pattern test for a friend. She designed cute little dice bags for the heated rivalry characters. And I am very aware of the show. I have not watched it at all. But she was like, "Hey, you crochet. Uh, would you pattern test these?" I'm like, "Ooh, yeah. Like, I will pattern test for friends all day long." So I will be doing that this weekend as the snow falls and falls and falls and falls and falls. But I'm looking forward to it because they're little bags, but then she also because they're hockey players, if you don't know. And it's a very gay show. Like it's all about them like falling for each other and everything. And I have seen the gift sets of the intimate scenes, and I didn't know you could do that on Canadian TV. Good job, Canadian TV. Not mad about it. But she's done little appliques for both of their jersey numbers that sew onto the dice bags, which I think is really cute. See, a lot of Walmarts are cutting down on their yarn aisles. We have one Walmart and it sucks, so I buy it online. I'm not really sure where it is at the Walmart near us, because it's a very, very busy store, and that really can change. That can really change how useful and good any part of the store is, depending on what time you go there. Just because Sunday afternoon they're going to be out a lot more stuff than they would be maybe in the middle of the week because of when people tend to shop. But they have a big long aisle of it at mine, which I've not seen like a whole aisle of yarn at a Walmart in years. So that's really surprising. But it was about half empty the last time I was there. And so I'm wondering if they were in the middle of condensing it down and then moving the yarn over. I do find it so interesting that because I remember years ago when they were cutting them down, And I find it so interesting that like it seems like they're doing it again. Oh, it might be a tariff thing. Yeah, because it's all imported. I mean, most yarn nowadays is imported unless you're like small batching from somebody local. Um, yeah, because they have the mainstays line, which is good. You know, it's Red Heart Super Saver, you know, dupe basically, a little cheaper. But yeah, they tend to keep to really basic colors, and so I'd be really curious. I really am curious to see what sales figures and what colors and brands are big at the various Walmarts. Like, is it fairly universal, and that's why they're kind of paring down because like everybody kind of goes to Walmart for 6 yarns, or is it very different? Can it be very different store to store? Um, yeah, and I mean, I'm not surprised that the yarn situation at Walmart is iffy right now because I mean, I think Joann's going under took everybody out at the knees in one way or another, and so I think maybe I wonder what also we're seeing is maybe people who used to go to Joann's to get their basics are now going to Walmart to get their basics, and like that might explain why the one near me is so empty. But also it could be that there are some places that they have the Walmart, but they don't. But Walmart doesn't sell what they need, so they get it online instead, and that has somehow hit the yarn. I don't know. Economics, kids, economics. Um, for those of you who just joined us, I am making a 1970s shopping bag out of Hobby Fluffy Day XL, which is a bulky weight yarn. The shopping bag is actually supposed to be a super bulky yarn, but the name of the yarn in the booklet, which is linked down in the description, was bulky. So, oh well. Really easy to adjust. It's a V-stitch. It's pretty. I like it. Yeah, value yarn prices. I have been like, I don't want to be like clutching my pearls, but I I don't do I don't do super fancy yarns all the time. I do sometimes, like the cardigan. Oh, here we go. This one, this yarn was $23 a skein, and this took. It's going to take 6 and a little bit of extra. So like, I knew, but it's for a sweater. Like this is something that's going to touch my human body, and then I'm going to want to wear a lot, and I want it to be in a yarn that I'm going to want to enjoy feeling against my body. So, that's why I pay out for that's why I will pay out for the really nice yarns because like I want nice clothes that are going to maintain and going to fit. I'm sorry, $15 for Karen 1 pound. Jesus. I remember when it was like $8.99. Wait, hold on. Back in my day, Karen 1 pound was $8.99 before taxes. All right, there. Now nobody can make fun of me for sounding like an old person. I know what I sound like, but like, yeah, like Karen 1 pound was the expensive yarn for me back in the day. It was like, oh my god, I'm buying. Yes, I'm getting a pound, but I'm paying $9 for a single skein of yarn. And like I love Juniper Moon Farms, which makes the yarn for the sweater. They're an independent brand. They're an independent company. So I love being able to support them. They are coming from Australia, which is part of why the cost is so high to get it in America. But it's been a beautiful yarn to work with. I want to work with more of their yarns because I've worked with this one now. But like I said, this is Hobby Fluffy Day XL, which is 100% acrylic. Trish and I were talking that it's a dupe for Lion Brand Jiffy. So like what I'm willing to pay for yarn, it goes across the spectrum. But like the value yarns that are meant to be like, I get a whole fucking bunch of you for, a very cheap amount of money. And I mean, £1 was 10 or like, I think it went up to like $10. It went up to $11.99. I remember that. And that was just a couple of years ago. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to swear by that because I'm not always certain how long stuff happened ago in terms of stuff like that. But I remember it being $12.99. And I'm like, that's about the ceiling of what I'll pay for it. Cause yeah, it's, um, yeah. I also love my Denmark. Um, and just stay away from many places. Um, but like, and the thing I really love about how Hobby has handled the whole tariff thing, because it's been difficult for everybody. Like there have been small yarn companies that have been like, we can't ship to you guys anymore. It is not in any way feasible. And I have nothing but sympathy for the company and for the customers. And Hobby was like, look, it's just in the price now. We're not going to sit here and tell you how much of it is the tariffs. This is the price of the yarn. You will not have, it will be this and shipping and tax and any state taxes in my case, when we ship it to you. And I'm like, perfect. No surprises. The Super Saver Bitty Stripes went from $7 to $12 in a year. Where did they must make that? Where is that made? That's got to be. I mean, that's the tariff taste in my mouth right there. Turkey. Yep, that's what it is. Like, by the way, no one asked my opinion on this. Tariff deficits aren't real. They're not real. If you have a trade agreement with another country, you are agreeing that you will take X products and they will take Y products. And it's about an exchange of goods based on what is available where you are and what is available where they are and what you need versus what they need. If you have a trade agreement, you can't have a deficit. If we buy more than they buy from us, that's just how it works sometimes. Or like, because that's the claim. We have to have these tariffs because we have this trade deficit with these countries. We don't have a trade deficit. We are like, and I try not to get into the ranty political side of myself on the channel because I want the crochet to be about the art and about having fun together. But this is something that just really sticks in my craw because trade deficit is a term that was made up to make excuses to be able to do shit like tariffs to other countries as a way to try to punish them, as opposed to just admitting that the United States is larger than Turkey by population and by general like size. We're gonna need more shit than Turkey. Turkey's gonna need less shit than us. And so like it's just so stupid and so wasteful, and none of our infrastructure was in place for this. And that's like, you guys, the rants I have had alone in my home in the last couple of years on a lot of things. But yeah, like it's none of the infrastructure that you need to be able to actually like collect the money for tariffs. Like, for example, I have friends in Canada. If I ship something to my friends in Canada at the border, they look at the slip that I filled out that said, here's what it is, here's what it costs, here's what, basically it's a gift. It's right at this amount of money. And then when the package, and then to get your package, you go and you pay the customs fee and you get to take your package home. We don't have that. Okay, the post office is not set up for me to show up and be like, I need to pay you $12 to get this box. Like, on top of this is not there wasn't enough postage, I'm covering it. By the way, that just gets sent back if you have insufficient postage. But it's like, we don't have that structure set up. You cannot actually properly enforce tariffs without that infrastructure. That is why companies like Hobby are having to go through and do all the goddamn math, are having to try and trust UPS. Bless them. Funniest shipping experience of my life. I know it wasn't for other people, but it was the funniest thing. It was exactly the laugh I needed after moving across the country. Was that package just hanging out in Louisville, just partying in Louisville. But yeah, so that's my rant on tariffs. Also, tariffs only hurt your own people. Okay, they don't actually they make shit more expensive for your people. And if you're saying that this is supposed to somehow make everything better for everybody, how does making shit more expensive make anything better for anybody? All right. By the way, this is why you should drink domestic champagne. That the price of my cheap champagne has not gone up. $70 for terrorists for blankets. What is Camp Boggy Creek collection? Oh, it's a charity. Yeah, like if the tariffs were actually going to be used to do something about, say, rail infrastructure, I would be a little more forgiving of them. But so I got confused by when I okay, so anybody watching, Camp Boggy Creek is a camp for kids with medical issues, and you can make stuff for them and send it to them. They are in Eustis, Florida. So the reason I was confused is because there are two movies from, I think the first one is in the 70s, the second one is in the 80s, called Boggy Creek. Excuse me. And Boggy Creek 2, and it's about a cryptid myth in southern Arkansas. And the second one, Boggy Creek 2, is a Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode, but also the guy who made that is an actual Arkansan who wanted to make movies in Arkansas, so he's close to my own heart because I'm from Arkansas. But then also he made the original The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which is about the unsolved Texarkana murders from the 1940s. So anyway, that's what Boggy Creek brings up in my head. Oh, it's a Paul Newman thing. Oh, okay, so Paul Newman started Boggy Creek Camp. That's so cool. Man, he was just a good dude. Like, I actually got reminded about the hilarious stories going around about Robert Redford after he passed away. He more than once a director was like, "Do you know what it's like to get turned down by a woman?" And he's like, "No." They're like, "Yeah, I can't cast you in this." He was supposed to be in The Graduate, and Mike Nichols was like, "Are you joking?" Schwartz Goblin. Very cool. Yeah, so Robert Redford was so attractive he had never been turned down, which I believe. That reminds me, I need to look for a hat drive because I want to make more hats this year. And I have so many hats. And I would say Sean has so many hats, but he doesn't. I think he has just two, three, two. And he's got a few others. He's got a couple that he wears to work because he works around chlorine and stuff. But he has two that he wears if we're just going out that I made him, and he doesn't really. He's like, I'll take more hats, but I don't like need more hats. And that makes me laugh because I'm just like, but hats, like I wear mine. But but most of my hat patterns are like vintage, so I need to find some modern hat patterns so that I don't have to make them in thread. Just give myself a break. So do you make stuff for Boggy Creek, Trish? Do you do, or just like charitable in general? No, you made a hat, you didn't like it? No. Oh, I've had that happen. Oh, 7. Wow, 7 blankets. Holy shit, that's a lot of blankets. I have signed up with the Loose Ends project, but they've got quite a long wait before you generally get assigned a project. And I did that last year, and so I want to do something more active with charitable work this year while I wait for Loose Ends to find something that fits what I like to do, because they ask you the kind of stuff you like to work on. But yeah, I don't know if you know about the Loose Ends project, anybody watching this, but it's Loose Ends project is a project finishing charity. And what happens is families can send in unfinished projects from loved ones who have gotten too ill to create or have passed away. And then it gets assigned out to a volunteer who will finish the project and send it back to the family. And I think it's a very sweet thing. And so I signed up last year, but like I said, the wait is very long. And I think it's also, crochet is not probably as prolific for Loose Ends as knitting and embroidery are, which are two other things they do. I think they also do quilting, but highly recommend checking them out if you're kind of looking for something that, if you're willing to wait and also kind of take whatever gets suggested. Although they are very gracious if you say no. So like, don't worry. The Linus project, is it just baby blankets? I know it's blankets because Linus. And I didn't know Linus project did quilting. I think quilting's so cool. I'm never going to do it. I know myself well enough to know that the process of quilting would drive me absolutely batty. But I love quilting. The artistry of quilting is just really something special. Okay, the blankets do go to kids, but also sometimes you need big blankets for big kids. I was not a tall child. I knew tall children. Yeah. I really like blanket charities like that. Because there's a lot of blanket patterns that are pretty quick. And I mean, there are quick hat patterns, but they all kind of, I think you end up with a lot of very similar hats from hat patterns, because you want to be able to make as many as you can, kind of as quickly as you can. Whereas blankets, you're always going to have to commit to the time. So do you have a quilting, like a sewing machine that quilts, or do you hand quilt, or both? There's an antique quilt somewhere in my family. One of my aunts has it. It was supposed to come to me because it always went to the youngest female grandchild. And then my cousin was born when I was 16. So it's going to go to her, which I think is great because I don't have uh I don't have children, and she has a kiddo. Um so better chance of her ending up with grandchildren than me. uh Actually, come to think of it, it went to the aunt that also doesn't have kids. Maybe it should have stayed with me. No. Um no, I bet you can, if you look around, you could find someone who would be happy to take the quilts and love them. I absolutely believe that. Like, it's always so funny to me when it's like, my kids, aren't interested in them, even though they're these, sort of fascinating family heirlooms. But I'm also from a family that passes down a lot of that stuff. So, and I've always been into it. And so, like, I get that, sometimes you're just not into it and that's fine. But, uh, like, we got some of Sean's grandmother's linens when she passed away, and I'm trying to find spaces to lay out all of them everywhere because they're just pretty and I want them to be used and I want them to be loved. You know what? I honestly, if your kids aren't interested, I think, burying yourself with the quilts is totally fine. Ooh. I want to be cremated. I'm claustrophobic, but like, you know, you'll be cozy. Uh when I would go antiquing, yeah, we used to hit estate sales in Portland, and I would have to walk away from just troves of beautifully done doilies and handkerchiefs with edgings, and I have one antique baby bonnet I could not walk away from, and I'm actually kind of glad in a way that I had to say no and walk away from a lot of those because now we do have space. And but now I'm trying to be like, let's pick, is there something in here that's like special or different? Because otherwise I would just be coming home with stacks of doilies, and I'm not the type of person who's going to sew them into anything or like there are people who are out there buying stacks of doilies, sewing them together, making dresses, tablecloths, all kinds of stuff. Love it. Not my thing. Um, but yeah, I do have a baby bonnet that is, I don't know how old it is, but I'm pretty sure if not the same bonnet, I found a very similar one in like a 1915 leaflet. Excuse me. You know how the previous generations made all those doilies and all those incredibly small lacework things. It's I always have to remember you had the radio, maybe. Um, and even in the mid-century when the TV came around, that still turned off at a certain point. And it was also that the way you could be sure that what you had was going to last was that you made it yourself, and because you knew that the mass-produced stuff wasn't going to last as long. And I was thinking about that the other day because I was looking at it's a set of blouses. It's a set of blouse patterns. They're all size 30 thread. And I'm just like, I want to make all of these, but how long is that going to take me? And I thought, I wonder how long it took the people who made them originally. Like, was it, did they, because maybe they did work during the day. Maybe they or they had the house to run, because I mean it was only a very, very small amount of people who really could just sit there all day uh and just stitch constantly if that's what they wanted to do. So like, yeah, the mass majority of people who were working on those things were doing other things. They were running a household, they were taking care of kids, they were maybe going to work, they were, if they were on a farm, and I know this from my own family, they were up at 4 and then you were in bed by 8. I think on and on is a good way to think about it, with the list you put there of just raising the family, and everything was hand washed, and you made the quilts, and you did the church things, and you gardened, and you put up food, and that was because you had to do it. And I mean, maybe that was just another step of it, was you had to make the things because you wanted to be house proud, you wanted to show that you were a good family. And man, I just like, I'm so I was a preemie, and I'm so glad that I was, because I never have to sit there and be like, man, I wonder what I would have done back then. I would not have survived. That's the answer to that. I would not be here if it was any time before about the 1980s. So worked out for me. But yeah, I mean, I think the amount of adult work that kids did back in the day, I think does account for some of the ability to do all that stuff, because, the girls were learning how to quilt and sew and embroider and all that from a very young age. So they were helping with that along with the other chores. And then, the boys were generally out doing any outdoor chores. There's actually a really fascinating moment in one of the Little House books where Laura is helping her father get, I think they're harvesting hay, and she's up in the wagon and she's stomping down the hay. And it's noted that this is usually boys' work, but there aren't any boys in the family. And when she's done stomping the hay, she's sent back to the house rather than getting to go into town, because she's basically gotten too dirty doing the work to be seen in town because she's a girl. And I was always fascinated by that, because I'm like, well, but everybody in town knows you only have girls. Of course the girl is the one doing that piece of work. Like, Ma's not going to do it. She's got to watch the little kids. Yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah, your mom grew up during the Depression. That's just such a particular moment in time. My grandmother was I think she was born in 33. Like, she remembers the Depression. There were only 2 of them though, so that probably helped a lot. And they lived in town, which I think made things a little bit easier. But the thing she remembers from the Depression is that for the rest of my great grandmother's life, my great grandmother had a really hard time throwing anything away, because what if you needed it? What if it stopped being stocked at the store? And it actually led to my grandmother being very aware of how much stuff she has and whether or not she really wants it. And I try to use that standard to make my own decisions like that. Well, and I mean, and the thing about, especially being born in 28 like your mom was, your entire childhood is, you got nothing, and then uh then you get 8 years old and things are getting better, and things are finally looking promising, and you're 8 years old, you're old enough to understand things are changing, and then war rationing happened. Like, that was a rough generation to be in terms of just like, and then suddenly it was the 50s and everything was available and everyone had money and you could get all the stuff but yeah, then you end up with the trauma that shows itself in I can't throw anything away, because when I was growing up, you couldn't throw anything away because you didn't have anything to replace it. Everything had to stay just in case you needed it. And it's and like on the one hand, I love that it's easier now to be like, you know what? That bookcase I bought for $30 has fallen apart. I can spend $30 to get a new one. But there is also a level of impermanence that didn't exist until the mid-century on things like furniture, appliances, and that sort of things. And it's just like my biggest complaint right now about one day my refrigerator is going to go out is that I don't want a smart fridge. And I'm probably going to have to just get one anyway. Like, that is such a different thing from like, well, our fridge went out and we have no money. So hope it's winter. Or we never had a fridge because because it's 1930. Everybody had ice boxes, but we don't have the money for ice. Like, oh, cellars, yeah. Right, yeah, a good cellar goes a long way. Well, and then also, you knew how to, you knew how to can your vegetables and put them up, which I don't know how to do. My dad does it, and he sends us the Christmas box. It was 2 Christmas boxes this year, and his stuff is always perfect. No, Dad got into canning. So my dad has always loved to cook, and he's always been a very good cook. And over time, he was like, "Well, how do I get, if I want to make a big pot, how do I save it?" And the little old ladies down at the auxiliary office said, "Well, you better learn to can." And they handed him a 3-inch spiral bound book. And I think he's read it 8 or 9 times. Apple butter. And like, now that he's retired, he has nothing but time to cook and can. And so now his hot sauces, because he does hot sauces, he does soups, he does vegetables, he does relishes, he does like wing sauce and barbecue sauce and red sauce for pasta. He does a clam sauce. But he does it so much now that he went out and got himself a little set that will put the foil seal around the top of the hot sauce bottle like it's gonna go to a store. And he actually was using my grandmother's like hand operated can sealer. And he decided to try to get something that would do it automatically, and he was not impressed with it. He went back to just which was very funny because my dad loves a good gadget. Yeah, people have asked him before if he's ever going to go into business, but like he just likes to make a mess in the kitchen. It might be, I think it is pressure, because I know the pressure cooker plays a part in the way that he does it. Because he used to do the hot water bath, and now I think he uses the pressure cooker, and then like it's a hand. The final seal is like a hand thing. Like I keep doing this. I think it comes down like that. And I think honestly it might just be that like he knows exactly how to use the hand canner because he's used it so much. That the new one that he tried to do just was not. Maybe it is the pressure cooker. But the new one that he had, it did not impress him. And I think there is a small I think there was a small discrepancy between the amount my dad cans versus the amount the gadget is supposed to be used for. I think dad's above the average. Uh, but yeah, for this super cold weather, I think we might bust out his potato soup and really have a good time. I think it was the pressure. I think it was Grandma's pressure cooker, and he knew that it needed a part, but decided to try a new one. And then it just was not. It was not giving him the results he wanted, so he got the part for the old pressure cooker. Boy, have we all been there. It's like every time I think I want to do Tunisian crochet, so I get the Tunisian hooks, and then I do it again, and I realize why I don't like it, and then I have to find somebody to take the Tunisian hooks. I think I have finally stopped. I remember why I don't like Tunisian crochet now. So I should not repeat the buy the hook and some yarn and find some patterns thing yet again. Oh yeah, the old timey pressure cookers would go off. Like apparently autoclaves can do that because they're basically just like pressure cookers for surgical equipment. But like yeah, the old autoclaves can also blow up. It's kind of amazing the number of things in your kitchen that could, if they decided to not like you, like take you out. I'm looking over at my kitchen now, like wondering what it's planning. But I mean, we don't have anything particularly dangerous in there. We have an air fryer. We do have an instant pot, so it has the pressure cooker option, but it also takes 4 tries to get the lid on right, so you know it's not going anywhere. Yeah, the instant pot is not to be trusted. We honestly cook on the Sean does the cooking. Sean cooks on the stove most of the time anyway. Like we're always like, oh, we gotta look up recipes for this thing, and then it's like, well, stove's right there. Oh, did the lid dent, or is it just like not agreeing to comply anymore? Hello, fellow people. Feel free to join in. We're just chit-chatting about well, right now we're talking about kitchen gadgets, ones that work, ones that don't, etc. And I am working on this is a purse strap, and this is the purse. It's called a shopping bag, and there is a link down in the description box to the booklet that I got it out of. I am using bulky yarn, but you need super bulky yarn. The yarns it's actually calling out were super bulky. They just only called them bulky because the 70s was the Wild West. One tiny dent on a pot is all it takes. Like, oh, it's so annoying. And like, especially that you don't know if it's sealing because of a tiny dent that really like it should be fine. It should just work. Kids these days. Like, I was thinking about like it should just work the other day because one of my very small crochet hooks that I have for thread crochet, I just bought like a set of tiny ones that had good reviews off of Amazon. One of the hook heads has rotated, and it's this kind of hook. And and so like this hook head is lined up perfectly. The one that is not working, the hook head is like on this side, but you can't hold the hook the right way to use it. And I get mad every time I pull it out because I mean to throw it away because the hook is not doing the right thing. And then I stick it back in with the others because I forget. It's probably an Addy knockoff hook because it was just like in a bunch from Amazon. So like probably made in the same factory. It just doesn't have the branding. I do like the S shape. Like this one is ergonomic, obviously, but yeah, I do actually like the S shape. Quite. Oh, did I? I managed to pull out the one that's wrong. Awesome. I do find the S shape to be very comfortable. And honestly, these, like if you just look up, I mean, they'll just, if you look up ergonomic hooks on Amazon, they'll show up. And this is the only one out of the whole pack that has turned on me like this. I thought it was turned this way, but it's actually all the way on the back. And that doesn't work. But I do really like them. I use them a lot because I'm trying to only use ergonomic hooks these days. Because my hands already make enough interesting sounds. Have you looked on like Facebook Marketplace or something for a like a replacement Instant Pot? Because you might be able to find one that like, well, I don't know what you would do if like both parts of it are still good. That's when it gets complicated when it's more than one part. Like, what do I do with the backup piece that I don't need? I bought you for the other piece. I've heard good things about furls. I've never used furls. I remember I tried to use like a similar style one where you have like the really big handle, but I mean that was years ago, so whatever I thought about it is gone from my head at this point. But yeah, I should probably get like a 3.5 furls and try it out because like if I don't like it, yeah, like yes, I have spent the amount of money a furls costs, but a 3.5 you can actually find a new home for, as opposed to any of my smaller ones. And a 3.5 is something that I use. I've gotten to the point that I'm using a 3.5 so much that I went out and just bought a 3-pack of them. That is how often I am working on a 3.5 hook nowadays because it's just super common for old patterns, super common for like lighter yarn patterns. And so it just like I've had times where I've been working on 3 separate projects that are all that hook size, but they're very different yarns. Yeah. I am trying to crochet a little less right now, I say, as I work on this. But I'm not always super good at that because it's very cold, so I want to be under a blanket doing something, and you can only read so much. Oh, the older Bates hooks. That's interesting. I have, let me see where I'm at. Ooh, perfect. I need like 4 more inches. So the pattern says this is to be 19 inches, and then what you're supposed to do, you make another one, and then you fold them over for the first 5 inches. You sew those 2 parts together so you have kind of a padding for the shoulder. I don't like that because that means the rest of it is still there to stretch, and it's going to make the bag longer over time, especially if you use it as a shopping bag. So I'm going to just take this out to I think I decided 24 inches because then when I fold it over, I'll have, I've confused myself. No, I'm going to 28 because then that will double to, that's double 14. And then when I fold it over, the straps will be 14 inches, which is how long they're supposed to be based on overlapping 5 inches in the original pattern. I got confused because I just measured and it's 24 and I need to add 4 more inches. And so my brain was just chewing numbers for a second. I could see it going under a 5.5 on the furls. I could understand that not being super comfortable because then you're dealing with a very small hook head or a hook head that's getting smaller and smaller while the base of the hook is still very large. Oh, I know those older baits hooks you're talking about. I have a few of them. A friend sent me some, and then my great aunt had a few in her collection. And I know what you mean about that grip. Yeah, they really do. So, I've been chit-chatting about this shopping bag all night. The other shopping bag I really love is a 1940s one, and you can technically you're supposed to make it out of like fingering or sport weight because the idea is that it tucks into itself and it's no bigger than a powder puff. But like you can still make it exactly the same, still tuck it into itself. It's just going to be larger at the bottom of whatever bag you carry it in. But I really like that one because it's Solomon knots, so it looks really pretty. But also, it turns out Solomon knots are not as difficult as I thought they were. I was, they always looked very scary to me, and they're just they're a weird single crochet, is kind of the best way I can put it. Like, I can do one right now, actually. So, Solomon knot. You pull it up to, it'll give you like a height. Now, then you go into, wait, I'm missing a step. I'd have to look it up again. But it's like you pull it up to a height. Oh, that's what it is. Okay, you pull up to a height. There's our height. You pull it through the loop, and then, so you have these two loops, which is the first loop you made. This is the one you just pulled up, and then you work through that third loop. And you do a single crochet there. And then, so that's one Solomon knot. Most of the stuff I worked with is a double, which is just pull up, pull through, you do a single crochet again, and then to finish it off, you go to the next stitch it calls for and do a single crochet in that stitch as well, and Solomon knot. Double Solomon knot in this case. Yeah, so the trick with the Solomon knot is you're working around the loop you pull up. At like, that actually does not clear it up at all. Hold on. So you pull up the loop to get the height, and then you pull a loop through, and then what you're actually working on is the leg of the loop you pulled through. And that is where the single crochet goes. So this is what you pulled up to get the height, and then this is the loop you pulled through. And then this is the single crochet as it's at. Sorry, I'm reading what you said about the bevel versus the non-bevel on the baits, and I'm like, is my hook? I think my hooks are all beveled. I know when I'm using one that is the other head because I have to like relearn how to actually work the hook because otherwise my yarn slips off. So most of my hooks are definitely the same version of the of the head shapes, because you've got the two major head shapes you could have. That's interesting. I wonder if, God, times like this, I wish I like knew how to dig for information like a historian, because like investigating when crochet hooks change their shapes and why would be really interesting. Yeah, that's exactly what happens to me when I'm using, a hook with the other head shape, is that it will just get hung up and it will drop, and I have to like go slow until I remember, until the muscle memory kicks in for working with the other type. There's a bunch there's a bunch of old hooks on Etsy. Like, I have actually used Etsy to figure out old hook sizing before. Like, I've just gone in and typed in arrow, for example, is one that is an old hook size. Like, you see it in a lot of old patterns. Type it in with the hook size and just go through the listings until I find someone who puts it in millimeters. Yeah, but the problem, of course, is it's either here's a bulk set and you're like, oh, I only want like 3 of these, or it's here's the one and it's the one you have, or it's the one you don't care about. And it gets really confusing reading old patterns sometimes, because I have American patterns that call out millwords, and millwords is a British hook brand. Yeah, yeah, exactly. 10 junk hooks for the one you want. But millwords also put out a line of hooks in the United States at one point, but they sized them differently. And so I'm like, okay, so do you want me to get, like, I assume this is the American sizing, but then I go and I work with it and no, but if I go to the British sizing, it works fine. And I'm like, how did anyone know? What is this? Yeah, it's I think Best Way Patterns, which is a British pattern brand. I think they always called out millwards. It's Milward. So my pronunciation sounds good to me, but that doesn't actually mean anything, because I'm Southern and went through 2 years of speech therapy for a speech impediment. So the German hooks were made in silver before World War II. Well, no wonder they didn't have any fucking money. What are you doing? I was actually just watching yet another documentary about World War II, and it was talking again about the reason the Weimar Republic was such a lovely time for people in Germany was because it was financed by American loans, because they were trying to help Germany get back on their feet after World War One, and then the Great Depression happened, and there were no more American loans, and the Americans wanted the Germans to pay what they owed, because the Americans now had no money. Absolutely. I've only recently, like in the last couple of years, started looking into like the financial side of World War II from the German side, and like how it all worked into Germany being bankrupt, basically. And it's just like, I know so much more about inflation than I ever wanted to know. Yeah, and then in the 30s, fascism became a thing because, well, everything we tried before hadn't worked, and Mussolini was like, I invented fascism. It's this new thing. It's like authoritarianism, but different. And then Hitler was like, that looks cool. I'm just going to take that. Thank you. Although to be fair, that was right after World War One that Mussolini came up with fascism. But it was all based around, wow, we just finished a world war and nothing worked. Yeah, I'm just now like the thing about World War II is that I think everybody starts with a fairly narrow scope. But then if it just scratches your brain in that exact way that it does me, you run out of you do eventually run out of material on whatever your little pet corner of it is and end up sort of moving outwards in a bunch of different directions because you were reading about like Band of Brothers, for example. Band of Brothers, you read about Band of Brothers and then that gets you to read about, you're like, okay, Easy Company at the Battle of the Bulge, so you get a book about the Battle of the Bulge, which leads you to read about the French Resistance, which leads you to read about what France was doing before World War II, which like it just I have to remind myself when I'm talking to people and they're like, oh yeah, I'm interested in World War II, we might have nothing in common. Because it's like, oh yeah, I really know a lot about the Americans in the European theater because that. And I have read a lot about the Holocaust because that was like Anne Frank's diary was like my introduction to World War II history in 8th grade, outside of like just like the basic stuff you learn in history class. And so that sent me down a rabbit hole that I'm still in. And then they could be like, I'm interested in the Pacific Theater and the Italian Front. And I'm like, I don't know shit. I know the Pacific Theater was the worst. That's basically what I can tell you about the Pacific Theater is it is still like one of the worst things that has ever happened. Which even in World War II is saying a lot. But yeah, so that's usually what I'm doing when I'm stitches and I'm watching documentaries and or we have something on the TV that is lightweight or we've seen before. Sean is rewatching House right now, which is really interesting to go back and revisit because it is somehow such a product of its time, but also still really holds up in a lot of ways. Like it's got like the CSI CGI for like everybody's innards, and you want to hit House with your car, but also you do kind of like him. Yeah, unfortunately, there is some overlap in that. I read Meep's memoir, Anne Frank Remembered, which talks about the Franks and like how she knows them, and yeah, very much. But also talked about like what she was doing when she wasn't in the annex, and it is unbelievable the amount of good Meep and Hank were able to do in the situation they were in, like constantly helping. I don't know how they did it. But like they were helping the Franks and the Van Dams and everybody in the annex, and then they encouraged their landlady, who was Jewish, to go into hiding and not tell them anything, but they promised to keep the house and they put it in their name so that her ship wouldn't be stolen. And then they were hiding someone in their house in the middle of Amsterdam and like helping other people who were part of the resistance get information. And then like Hank was using his position as a social worker to help make fake documents for people so they wouldn't be grabbed up for forced labor. And it's just like they were doing all of that and everything that had to be done to keep 7 people going up in the annex. And it's just it's absolutely amazing. Because I mean, it's an astounding story all on its own, and especially when you read Anne's diary. You know, Meep is just such a figure in her diary. Anne adores her. She thinks she's the coolest person ever. You know, Meep is the one who comes and brings us things. And then from Meep's perspective, it's we could only be up there for half an hour a day. And I'm like it's just getting the other side of it and understanding they felt the same amount of they had the same amount of care and love for one another, and they actually had the same I think they had really similar feelings of longing about not being able to be together more often, of not being able to do more for each other, even though they had such wildly different experiences. Yeah, like I haven't read Anne's diary in a few years, and so reading Meep's memoir is. I was shocked at how often they were downstairs in the office to listen to the radio, but that was the only way they could really do it. Documented interviews with the family member who was there. Yeah, that's actually the end of Anne Frank Remembered. Meep talks about there had been so Anne's diary led to a renewed investigation into who had given up the Franks, and there was someone at the company everyone's kind of suspected, but Meep actually was like, no, it wasn't him. And I know that because during the war he was hiding someone, and I knew that because he told me. We helped each other. I think there are some recorded interviews. I know there's definitely interviews with me talking about when her book came out, and I'm sure the Anne Frank Institute has a ton of stuff. But yeah, but during the investigation, actually, it's right at the end of the book, and it just got me right in the teeth. Was the authorities went to Mr. Frank and said, you know, how can you be sure it's not Meep? How are you sure that it wasn't Meep that turned you over? And he said, it's as likely to be Meep as it is to be me. And I was like, I gotta go cry for 20 minutes now. Excuse me. I will be back. So yeah, big recommend on that book. I really appreciate that the Anne Frank Institute has kept the annex as accurate as they can make it, because I think that's a big part of it. When I was in 8th grade, so right after I'd read Anne Frank's diary the first time in school, I went on a trip to Washington D.C. with some kids in my class, and we went to the Holocaust Museum, and we saw a special exhibit called Daniel's Story, which was an amalgamation of several stories of children in hiding. And they had it set up so, like, this is what the room looked like, this is how much space it had, and it was it really does a lot to help you understand the stress level of you have to hide in this space, and you have this much room, and you can do so little. Yeah, and the amount of people, I mean, especially in the annex where it's and it's a bunch of tiny narrow rooms, because that's what the buildings were built like. And so it's just, oh, I don't like someone being behind me in the kitchen. Like, I don't know how I would do if everywhere I turned, someone was basically behind me all the time. Not because they were trying to be weird, just there's a lot of people in a small space. So yeah, the book, I got the book at my local library. You can probably find it. I'm sure it's been digitized at some point. Um, some people's bathrooms are bigger. Not mine. Uh, our bathroom is very narrow. It's kind of hilariously narrow. Um, yeah, it's just astounding. Uh, yeah. Our old place, because it was a renovated basement, the toilet and sink were in a tiny little cube of a room, and then the it was just a long thin room, and it went dryer, washer, shower stall, and that was the end of it. What's that? Oh, okay. So significant snowfall is expected soon. Did we know that? He's got his headphones on. I'm being hilarious. Yeah, in case anyone was worried, significant snowfall. How did I? Oh, there it is. Exactly. Uh, I am wearing. So I've got my slippers on. I'm wearing fleece socks. I have this behind me, which my mother-in-law gifted me a couple of years ago, and I've worn maybe twice because it's very, very warm. And I forgot. I opened my closet today to get out the old college sweatshirt I usually wear when it's cold, and I was like, oh, I have. It's finally useful. Yeah, I think we're due around 7. That was the last I saw, and I refused to look it up. We have one thing to do tomorrow that requires leaving the house, and we will be home long before 7. So I'm not worried. We are having Bean meet a dog sitter. So we are excited about that. Right. And yes. All right, perfect. Okay. There's the 28. Oh, okay, it's going down then up. I wasn't sure which direction it was going. I I saw the map and was like, I've seen everything I need to see about this. Uh just going to wait it out. Um I mean, it's one of those weather events where you're like, I got nothing I can do about it anyway because it's weather. I actually am very curious to see what Bean will do because she loves the snow, but it's never been taller than her. So I will definitely have the camera out for that one and probably post it just so all of us who are dealing with the snow can enjoy it. Um, get some fun out of it. No, Portland is a very rainy city. Not quite as bad as Seattle, but very similar. Um, and so there are parts of Oregon that do get a lot of snow, and then Portland is very interesting because we're at the bottom of the mountain. So depending on where you lived in the city, you were higher up in the mountains by like a noticeable elevation. So like neighborhoods could get snow, but that didn't mean the whole city had snow. And then you had the secondary problem that Portland doesn't get snow enough of the time to have the infrastructure, much like in the South, where you have just too much, where it's just like financially it doesn't make sense to keep plows and salt. And also in Portland, you don't salt the roads, even if it does freeze, because it's bad for the salmon population. And so when it does snow in Portland, it shuts down the whole city for like a couple of inches can shut down the whole city for like 3 or 4 days. Because people have, and what will happen is people will go out and use the roads, and then the roads will be passable, and it's all fine. But also, what happens is people put on their cross country skis to go to the bodega, which was one of my favorite things about our neighborhood. Was I got to see that. I loved that. But there was we had snow a couple times. We had like a good 6 or 8 inches one year that like nobody could get out for a week because it just took that long to melt down. And you know, salting the streets isn't useful after the snow has fallen. You want to do that before the snow has fallen. So like the plows got out, but there was like a crust of like it had snowed, frozen, snowed more. So there was a crust they couldn't get through with just the plows, and the salt didn't get through it either. And then the last January we were in, it iced real. Was it last January? There was a January with like a proper ice storm, like ice, and it was not melting, and it was glare ice, and that's the kind of ice I grew up with. So I just stayed home, and the neighbors were going stir crazy. Tennessee. Yeah, the changing weather patterns are definitely messing up a lot of people. Like the ice that hit Portland, the main streets, like the main thoroughfares. We lived right next to Powell, which is a main junction in Portland, and it was fine within 24 hours because people went out and they drove on it anyway. But our street, which was literally like 2 blocks over, very much in the middle of things, it didn't get touched. And our neighbors, I went out, I was walking the dog, and I walked by, and they were like pouring hot water on their driveway to try to get the layer of ice off the bottom of the driveway so they could just and like get out and do something. And I'm just like, yeah, you guys you're gonna want more hot water than that. Yep. No, I'm not stir crazy. Actually, I grew up in this. I'm fine staying home. Actually, last story before I call it a night, because it is 8:57. That ice storm, I knew I was going to fall because you always fall. And I was walking this little beastie that settled next to me just now. And she loved the ice. I think it's like different smells or whatever. And as we were walking, we had made it up the street a block, and I turned us back around to come back because I did not trust going anywhere else. And we were about halfway down the block, and I went, here it comes. I'm falling. And I felt it happening, so I went limp. And I slid about a quarter of a block and then came to rest very gently against the side of someone's car. And I looked back up the block, and I'm holding onto the leash, and Bean is at the other end of the leash like, what are you doing? And I called her to me because I wanted her close by, because I wanted to pick her up as I was standing up, because I didn't want to worry that I was going to yank her around on the leash. And I called her to me, and she looked away because she wanted to keep sniffing things, and whatever I was getting up to, she had no interest in. Yeah, like, is this a new way to walk me? Like, that was totally the vibe of it. And like, I was fine. The fact that I knew I was going to fall at some point meant that when it did happen, I went limp, and that was probably the best thing I could do. And I managed to get up thanks to being next to a car. I just grabbed the handle with all my might and hoped it wouldn't crack. And we got home, and it was fine, but I was denied by the creature that I take such good care of. He was now laying next to me on a cheeseburger pillow like she's never done anything wrong in her life. You have, though. You have. All right. Well, I'm going to call it a night because we were at 1:59, 11 seconds. And I hope you have a warm and safe storm, and the power stays on, and I hope it is as boring as it can be for everyone. I hope it's a boring storm to talk about later. All right. Take care, everybody. Next live stream will be the 4th Friday of February. Before then, usual slew of videos. Oh, there is a 5th Friday video next week because there are 5 Fridays in January. So I hope you enjoyed that. I have a big announcement in that one I'm excited about. I have a project that I can't wait to tell you about. I do hope it's all hype. All right, take care, everybody. Button.